Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Christmas edition of No Buts About It. Stan, who is staring at the camera, is in what he calls the worst place on earth, Connecticut. We have Chus, who is in his basement in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Sounds
Solid.
so excited, Chus. Well, you should be excited because we are giving away a hat. And I put up a video on the YouTube of how you can win that hat. All you have to do is be subscribed to No Buts About It. You have to screenshot that you're subscribed, then go over to my Twitter page, and there's a pinned tweet up there. If you quote tweet that with a photo of proof that you are subscribed, you'll be entered to win the hat. And once we hit 100 subscribers, we'll give the hat away. And any hat, I will just tell you, hey, go to Fanatics, pick out a hat, and then I'll buy you that hat and have it shipped to you. Pretty great deal. So if you want an NFL hat to support your team as we enter the NFL playoffs, or maybe just to support your team because your team sucks and you're sad, go over to our YouTube page and enter that contest. We have a big show today. We're talking about Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals. He had some interesting comments after the Vikings game. The Steelers have Mason Rudolph starting this week. And, of course, we're going to talk about Mike Tomlin a little bit. We got Stan the Jet fan here, so you know we're going to talk about the New York Jets. And then are the Eagles and Cowboys on Fraud Watch? So let's just start off with Jake Browning and the Cincinnati Bengals. So, for those of you who don't know, and I've heard this wrongly said multiple times in the media, Jake Browning is not a rookie. I have seen multiple news articles calling him a rookie. He's been in the league since 2019. He was on the Vikings practice squad. And he never started for the Vikings, but when they cut him, they never told him. They sent him back to his hotel and they told his agent that he'd been cut, but they never told Jake. And he did not like that for obvious reasons. Well, after he beat them as the Bengals starter, he screamed, "You never should have cut me." And in his interview, he was kind of like, yeah, this was a revenge game for me. Well, a few days later, he said, I wish I hadn't have made this a revenge game for me. I want it to be a team effort. I feel kind of selfish having made it a revenge game for myself. So I want to know, what do you guys think about revenge games? I mean, we've seen a couple revenge games this season where teams players have to face their old teams and are hoping to beat them to prove that they are better than what the team thought they were. What are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I guess it just kind of depends, like, on the situation when it comes to like these revenge games. I didn't really see a need for Browning to have like a revenge game against the Vikings. It wasn't like he like lost out on a starting position. He was just kind of he was a practice squad guy that got cut, which is like unfortunate, and now he's a starter. But it's not like the Vikings were ever going to look to put him ever on that high pedestal. I mean, obviously the Bengals took a chance on him, which is huge. Some quarterbacks never get that opportunity. So for him to have that revenge game is kind of good. But I mean, I feel like the Vikings are fine, with or without Browning currently. I mean, I feel like, yeah, they've been kind of struggling a little bit because they've been throwing in Mullins and they threw in they pulled Dobbs at one point and stuff. So, I mean, revenge games are weird, in my opinion, but it really depends on the situation of it. Because it's one of those things where it's like when Tom Brady went to verse the Patriots as Tampa Bay, was that really a revenge game? Or was that just another game for him? Because didn't he choose to leave? Like, they weren't planning on re-signing him, and he didn't force them to re-sign him, so he just kind of left. So, I mean, that's sometimes a lot of players where they're just like, oh, you didn't offer me enough money, I'm going to prove what I've got somewhere else. And then you come around and you play them. It doesn't really amount to anything. It's like, oh, wow, this guy put up 100 yards receiving and a touchdown against his former team. And then you don't hear about it again. It's just all right. A win's a win, and then you just kind of move forward. I feel like it's just kind of a interesting way of looking at it.
Stan?
Yeah, I mean, the Jake Browning thing is just kind of weird because no one really knew who he was. It's not like they cut him to show him something. They just needed another spot on their practice squad. So it's kind of weird to call that a revenge game. But in general, I love revenge games. I mean, throw some beef in there. They're always so much fun. We had a couple of revenge games this year. We beat the Broncos, who were talking trash on us this year, and that was really enjoyable. For me as a fan, it's great. We're playing Bill Belichick in what is likely to be his last ever game for the Patriots. Boy, do I want to win that one. Revenge games are awesome. And do I think like revenge games are inappropriate because they take the focus off the team? I would not say so, because for the team, you're with your guys there. You're with your quarterback. You're with your linebacker who got cut from whichever team, right? So you're with your guys. You're with the tradition of your team on staying with your teammates there, and that just adds a little extra juice to that game, a little extra flames to the fire.
So, I mean, I agree. And the Jets did have a ton of revenge games, especially the most notable, like you mentioned, the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton saying he shouldn't be a coach. And that's a whole nother debate whether that's true or not. But the fact that the Jets were able to beat the Broncos was huge for Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator.
I am going to add one thing about revenge games, though. I feel like it shouldn't be player based. Like I feel like a lot of people look at it as player based. I feel like it really should be team based, because like there are still NFL games that are kind of like those revenge games where it's like, oh yeah, the Patriots go in and beat the Steelers 4 times in a row, and then the Steelers beat the Patriots for the first time ever in like 10 years or whatever. It's not actually how it went down, but they beat them for the first time in a while. That's like kind of like a revenge game because the Patriots had caused us so many issues in the past, and then we go in like 2018 and beat them, or 2019 or whatever, and we beat them. So, I mean, I feel like sometimes there are those revenge games. I mean, obviously it kind of can't like translate from like regular season into playoffs, because will the Patriots ever really get a revenge game against the Eagles for beating them in the Super Bowl? Well, they might play in the season, but what does that really prove? I mean, you're more likely to get that in like college football, where you're getting like a revenge championship game. But I feel like it definitely should be more team oriented. But go ahead, finish what you were saying, Josh.
Well, I was going to ask you, James Conner. He's on the Cardinals now, and he has been for a few years. But he went to Pitt, played for the Steelers. Then he came in, and the Cardinals beat the Steelers. So, as a fan, how does that bother you at all to see him and be like, wow, we could have had James Conner and kept him in the city that he's been in?
Well, they didn't want to keep him just because he was just like his contract was going to be high, and he's injury prone. So the Steelers weren't obviously going to keep him. As a fan, I kind of just accepted that, because I mean, no player really is always guaranteed to stay in the same place forever. So, but seeing him come back and do well, it kind of makes me happy for him that he's doing well for another team. I don't really think it bothers me, because with each new NFL year, you're going to get new players. You're going to have a different scheme. You're going to play differently. You're going to have different offense and defensive weapons. So I mean, for me, from a fan perspective, I don't let it bother me. But I know some Steelers fans, it like rocked their world. They're like, we should have never let go of James Conner. And the problem is with Steelers fans is they were the same Steelers fans that were saying we should have gotten rid of James Conner a long time ago. So, I mean, I was happy that he did well. I'm not surprised he did well. After all, he played at Pitt for multiple years. I mean, he had cancer for a little bit, so I believe he came back for his last year, which would have been his senior year or his junior year. He came back one of those years, but he popped off, and then he got drafted by the Steelers, and he did really well, and he's still doing really well. But he knows Pittsburgh inside and out, so it wouldn't surprise me that he plays well there.
And then final thing before we move on to talk about the Steelers again. What do you guys? And I get he's a practice squad player, and this is only one side of things. And Jake even said like the coach that's there, the GM that's there, aren't the same guys that were there when I was cut. But what do you think about the Vikings, like, not, according to Jake, not telling Jake that he was cut from the team? They're just telling him to go back to the hotel, and then him finding out through a text from his agent later that he'd been cut.
I mean, that's terrible business. I mean, that's just it's disrespecting a player. And even if he's like a practice squad guy, think about what most practice squad guys do in the league. They end up re-signing the same practice squad every other year. You know, most guys stay with the same team. So the way they did that was really badly managed. And I think, if anything, it kind of shows why that GM and that staff is not still there. They didn't really do a great job at that. And it is very disrespectful. So I do understand Browning having some amount of like anger towards that organization after being treated like that. I mean, you lose your job like that in a second and you don't even know it. That's the worst part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think with it, I want to kind of like ask you, Stan, is that staff that you mentioned, are they even still there anymore? Like a lot of that staff? Because I mean, either of you guys, like the ones that like cut Browning from the practice squad?
No, he said that it's different. I know the head coach is different. The head coach would have been Zimmer, and Kevin O'Connell is the head coach now. And the GM, I believe, is also different. And he said most of the staff there is different now as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like at that point, it's even less of a revenge game, because like, who are you getting revenge on at that point? You know, that's why like I feel like it was like kind of a weird situation for him. I don't think he's like in any way wrong, because I'm sure, you know, everybody lets their emotions get the best of him, and obviously he's come out and apologized and said it should have been more of a team effort. But I mean, I feel like since it's like it's different people, there's like nobody you're really proving anything to, you know, with some of these revenge games. I mean, like maybe James Conner proving it to like Mike Tomlin, but I mean, like it's like, you know, different coordinators at times and stuff, and like, you know, it's just always changing. So it's one of those things where it's like, are they really revenge games, or I don't really know. I mean, because I've never really like experienced a revenge game where I'm like, oh, like this game, this, you know, like I don't know, but it's just me.
You're not a player either.
Yeah, but like, I mean, and even in sports before, like there's been teams that have like dropped me and picked me up and like, you know, traded me off and stuff like that. But I just go in and I play my game. Like I don't, for ball hockey, like I don't keep it as anything different than, you know.
You got traded?
Yeah, you can get traded in ball hockey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Is this like an inner city? Like,
well, this has been years ago. This was years ago.
I'm not familiar with what this is.
Yeah, it's just deck hockey. It's basically just you run around with a stick and a plastic ball. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Instead of playing with skates and ice and frozen pucks, you're just running around with a plastic ball. It's the same concept.
Is this like a Pittsburgh like?
No,
is the league like set in Pittsburgh? Like you don't have to move if you get traded though. Like the NFL, if you get traded, you might have to move across the country, and you have like 2 days to move.
No, I don't. No, it's not like that, obviously. But I mean, still, you know, I don't know. I feel like still, but like, okay, yeah, they move across country then, because like they move across country, and then from there, it's just like they have these revenge games. And I don't really get, what are you trying to imply to me here? What are you trying to like prove to me? Because like by them getting traded away and playing across country, and then they come back to play the team that traded them in a revenge game, like if they're a 24-year-old single dude, what the hell do they care if they're moving like across country? Do you think that they'd care? Because like, I mean, more than likely they're already in a city where their family isn't at, so it's not like they're, you know.
Yeah, but moving's stressful. Having to pack up all your stuff real quick and then move from like Josh Dobbs all of a sudden had to move from Arizona up to Minnesota. He didn't even have time to pack his bags. He got on a flight and he took what he needed, and then his parents packed up his apartment and moved him. That'd be stressful.
They are getting paid at minimum hundreds of thousands of dollars, so I think that kind of sweetens it up a little bit.
I guess, but I'd be stressed out still. I'd be like, oh shoot, I need to get to Minnesota. I need to learn the playbook. I need to get out of here. All that. I wouldn't be
Well, they
able to do
didn't.
it.
Most of the time when these trades have happened and stuff, or when these players get acquired, they don't even have time to look at the playbook.
Yeah, I know. And that's even like Dobbs' situation. He got thrown into the game. I'd be so stressed out. I'd be worried.
All right. Well, luckily you won't have to worry about it because I think our chances of all three of us making it to the NFL are probably slim now.
I'm gonna be a walk-on.
Why don't you try out? Why don't you try out for like the Steelers or something, or like the Bengals?
I could make the Steelers. No
You
problem.
think you can make the Bengals practice squad?
No, I could make the Steelers though.
I got a proposition.
Okay.
Flag football is going to be the thing in the Olympics. If we go to like some poorer third world country, get dual citizenship, we can all join the Olympic team for one of those countries. And because countries are guaranteed spots in the Olympics, right? We can try to sneak our way onto one of these squads and play against the NFL players, and that'll be our revenge game because none of us got drafted.
Our intramural collegiate flag football team that we had where we all went to school, I was pretty fire in the pass rush. They had to make a rule because I kept splitting the gap. They were like, you can't do that anymore. You have to run around the O-line. I was like, I was just running up the A gap, getting that quarterback. I had like 12 sacks. I don't mean to brag, but
they made a rule based on it.
They made a rule. I was too good. Well, let's move on. Steelers stuff. Chus's little opinion here. That was lovely. I apologize to anyone using headphones that just heard that. Mason Rudolph is the starter for the Steelers this week, as was heavily requested by the fans on Thursday Night Football. Also, Demontae Kazee has been suspended for the rest of the season. Minkah Fitzpatrick is also out, so you guys, last I checked, have one active safety. So that'll be rough. But what do you think about Mason Rudolph starting, and what do you think about Demontae Kazee being suspended the rest of the season after that controversial hit that took Michael Pittman Jr. out of the Colts game and single-handedly took me out of the fantasy playoffs?
Yeah. For record though, I was clearing my throat, had a lot of phlegm, made me sound like Venom. So, but I had to spit it somewhere, so I apologize for the grossness or the weird noises that the microphone might have picked up. But anyway, when it comes to KZ, I don't think he was trying to hurt the guy. I feel like I do feel like in a way Brady kind of made a point. I don't know if you read that. I'm sure you did. But like Tom Brady like tried to defend the situation by saying like they probably shouldn't have Minshew probably shouldn't have thrown that pass. Like I know what he was trying to do, but like it probably wasn't a good idea to throw it because it kind of would have led into something more dangerous for the receiver, and it did. And now, MPJ is, concussed. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think he was intending to hit him that hard. I couldn't really tell. It wasn't like he was attempting to do helmet to helmet. Like it looked like he was trying to lean with his shoulder, but like when plays like that like form so quickly, it's hard to like stop your full force. That's why there's a lot of penalties like on, roughing the punter or, roughing the kicker, roughing the passer. Like it's hard to like when you're running full force and then they like throw the ball or something like that, you're more than likely gonna, it's kind of hard to like stop that momentum. So I don't think he meant to do it. I don't think Kazee as like a, as a person that watches the Steelers, I don't think he's ever shown like strokes of like a dirty player or anything like that. It just happened. So, I mean, I don't know. He's definitely, obviously, yeah, he's suspended for the rest of the season. It impacts us a lot just because now we have to figure out what to do with our safeties because Minkah has been hurt and now Kazee is suspended. So now we have to figure out what to do with, our safety room. But yeah, I mean, the Kazee thing is kind of unfortunate, I guess. But I mean, you live and learn, I guess. We'll see what happens next season with Kazee. But when it comes to Mason Rudolph, I think that was pretty interesting. I didn't actually think that he was going to ever get put in. I thought at the soonest he would be able to start maybe this game if Mitch did fold. And sure enough, Mitch did in fact fold. I mean, the whole entire team pretty much folded in a way. But, I mean, Mitchell Trubisky is just not the answer. And then I don't think it was a good idea to put in Mason Rudolph with 2 minutes left in the game to try to rally the team to win for 2 touchdowns. I feel like that was the stupidest thing ever. And I got kind of mad because it was almost like Tolman was trying to set the dude up for failure, because I'm like, why would you put him in when there was really no reason to? You're like almost like trying to embarrass the dude, because the Colts are obviously going to try to finish the game. They're going to try to probably be blitzing. They're going to be trying to finish off, interceptions, fumbles, sacks. They're going to be doing all they can because they want to be done. They want to kneel it and they want to go home. So I don't know why that was a good idea to put him in. He should have started the fourth quarter or maybe even the third quarter and then just messed around a little bit. Not 2 minutes left in the game. I felt like that was really stupid. But obviously now, I obviously, like, Kenny Pickett was questionable going into this week. He is like confirmed out again, so he won't be playing. A lot of people were saying that even if Kenny was healthy, he probably would have been behind Mason Rudolph, not because he was getting benched, but because they wanted to rest Kenny Pickett for following week, which would have been Seattle. And
Mason Rudolph's better than Kenny Pickett, is what you're saying?
Now. But I mean, if that happens, then I guess let it happen. But I mean, I love the guy. I love Mason Rudolph. I mean, I'm glad that he's getting his start. I think he's a very humble guy. I think that he shows a lot of passion for the team, and I really hope that he does well for us. I really hope that we get that Christmas miracle against you guys on Saturday. Rudolph, the third string quarterback, coming on Christmas. So, Christmas miracle.
I don't want you to get that. But we don't have Jamar Chase. We're not going to have DJ Reader in our already hurting run defense.
Why were you going like this to me? You're like, oh, what?
I'm worried. I don't want you guys to win.
You think? Yeah, I thought you were trying to prevent me from saying something. I was like, what was I saying? I wasn't saying anything. All I'm saying is that this is going to be a great game that Josh should drive 6.5 hours to go to on the day before Christmas Eve.
No. If you buy me a plane ticket, maybe.
I don't know if they have direct flights from Fort Wayne.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, or wherever you're close to. I guess I know, but like, where would your closest airport even be? Because mine's Pittsburgh, obviously.
Fort Wayne has an airport.
Is it an international airport?
Yeah. We're bougie up here.
I was going to say you might have to drive all the way to Indianapolis to get that.
But, okay. Point being, my travel plans are not important. Do you worry for Mason Rudolph? Because we've seen this happen before. Almost this exact same scenario where the fans cheer for Mitch, and then they're like, Mitch sucks, we want Mason. And then Mason plays, and they're like, Mason sucks, we want Mitch back, or we want Kenny, or we want this guy. How fast do you think that fans will turn on Mason if the Bengals start winning on Saturday?
I don't know if they will, because I feel like there's a consensus at a point where I don't think people are fans of Mitch. That's the problem. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but like, when it comes to the Steelers, like, obviously when Kenny wasn't doing great, he was still winning these games. It wasn't great wins, but we were still, doing what we could to win. They would say put in Mitch, but I think now that Mitch has finally played a couple of games, I think most of the fans are realizing that, Mitch is definitely not the option. And he never was. I mean, like, he's lost all of these like crucial games. Like, we lost to the Cardinals, we lost to the Patriots, we lost to the Colts, We lost to the Patriots last year in what was a very close game. Somehow he picked up like a couple miracle wins, but he also folded against Baltimore last year by throwing 3 interceptions. Like, dude does not have a good track record here. So why would we start him? If we actually started him at the beginning of the season, we'd probably be like not even still in playoff contention. We probably would have been eliminated by now, just because based on all of his win productions, we're like, they'll put you at like 3 and like 8. I swear. I mean, it's probably less than that, but it's a lot. It feels like 8, but I feel like I don't know if they'll turn on him, Mason, because I feel like at this point we don't have any other options. Because you throw Mitch back in, we're gonna lose. You keep Mason in, even if he's not the best, at least it's something. You know, this isn't like 2019 where we had like a Devlin Hodges, Mason Rudolph, where they did turn on Mason Rudolph, but it was because Hodges was actually doing really well, and they just put Rudolph back in just for the thrills, even though Hodges was hot. So I mean, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't pan out well for Mitch being in the Steelers right now, but that's just my opinion.
So Mason has the fan base behind him
Currently, and I don't really see it being like, the only way I think it would cause issues is if like there was a player that was absolutely going to be better than him, because this week it's like, oh, Mason doesn't do well. Who are you going to put in? Mitch, the savior? No, because he's not going to save you. So, and it's not like you can put in Kenny Pickett because Kenny Pickett's hurt. And the only way that Trace McSorley will get his chance to start is if Mason and Mitch both go down. So, I mean, you ain't going to see Trace McSorley. That would be interesting. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Hey, that kid from Briarwood, he can throw it on a dime.
Yeah.
Like he ain't even trying.
Interesting.
They should make a song about him.
Yeah, they should.
There should be a Trace McSorley song. I bet it would be a hit, especially on like TikTok. Okay, final thing about the Steelers, or Stan. Before we go into that, Stan, did you have anything about Mason Rudolph or Mitch?
I mean, the Rudolph thing, I think that's a hit. I mean, right before Christmas playing Rudolph, it just makes sense. In regards to...
Yes.
In regards to Kazee, I think this is one of the few times that I agree very heavily with Tom Brady, and one more of the many times I agree with Chus here. The Kazee thing was definitely overblown. I don't think should have been suspended. When you look at the situation, as Chus mentioned, it happened so fast. And rewatch the video, pay attention to the entire play, and specifically what Pittman is doing, right? For Kazee to predict the movement of Pittman that led to that collision is very tough. So I don't think it was on purpose, and I think for that reason, the full suspension was definitely overblown. If you wanted to, fine him, 100%, I'm down with that. But to suspend him for the season, it seems very much overblown.
Okay. We have one more piece of drama out of Pittsburgh.
Of course.
And I don't know if Chus knows where I'm going with this, but George Pickens, who we have mentioned on the show before, he did not block for Jaylen Warren. Now, there's a debate here. So, the play was pretty similar to the play that Tank Dell down in Houston got hurt on when he was blocking. George Pickens said he did not want to get hurt because he didn't block because he didn't want to get hurt like Tank Dell did. Jaylen Warren came out and said, hey, I get it, but if I was in your shoes, I probably would have blocked, but everyone plays differently. People react differently. I play a way where I block for my team. So we've got that going on. A few weeks ago, we saw Demontae Johnson wasn't quote unquote trying with the fumble against the Bengals. And now we've got George Pickens not blocking for his running back. Chus, what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, 93.7 The Fan, which is a local radio station here in Pittsburgh, did report that TJ Watt told Eisen that some players don't respond to Tomlin. And I feel like that's kind of a big point when, one of your leaders of your locker room are saying that, because, I don't necessarily think it could all be Tomlin's fault. I think sometimes it just is a matter of what players you have. But I do think that, honestly, people hate when I say this, and I'm going to say it again, and I hope that everybody in the comment sections blows up on me again, because all those same people that were telling me how great Tomlin was, well, you're watching him lose 3 games in a row. I wonder how that feels, because it feels tough. It feels tough for me. But I think that you need to clean house. And I've been saying that. And by clean house, I mean just figure out, like, Omar Khan needs to go in, and just trade these players away. Just get rid of them. I'm tired of hearing about it. George Pickens is in the news every other week about something. I'm tired of hearing about it. Trade him somewhere else because he's unhappy. He's never going to be happy. So trade him somewhere else. Trade DJ if you want. Trade Deontay Johnson if you feel that he's not going to step up to the plate. And then get new coaching. Everybody. And I'm not talking just a head coach. Get a new defensive coordinator. Get a new head coach. I'm not saying our defensive coordinator is bad, but I definitely think that, at that point, you might as well just clean house with everybody. Just start over. You're not rebuilding, really, unless, you do something stupid and you let go of, TJ Watt and some of your star players. Well, then, yeah, maybe you will rebuild. But for now, just, just clean house. And I really think George Pickens needs to go. I really do. I thought the guy was going to be great. I had a lot of high hopes for him. But he's been more of a problem in the news, and I'm tired of hearing about him in the news all the time. And I was tired of hearing about AB in the news when he was that problem. I'm not saying Pickens is the next AB, but I'm just saying that Pickens needs to just slow down a little bit here. He's you're a young guy, you're a young wide receiver. Just chill a little bit, man. Maybe he's better off somewhere else. Maybe he's better off somewhere else.
I mean, if I could butt in here, I mean, look at. I love Tomlin, first of all. I think he's a great head coach. I agree with you there. You guys do need to move on. And for 2 reasons. One, Tomlin did not do a great job of moving on from the Big Ben era. For one, they waited way too long starting him. And then they didn't prepare enough to draft, young guys with good upside early on. And now you see what happens. One of the storied franchises of the NFL is looking worse than I think ever in my lifetime or any of our lifetimes. I cannot think of a time when the Steelers have looked as bad as a team, right? And then the second part is, we're talking about Pickens now. We're talking about DJ as well. Look at Chase Claypool. Look at even Le'Veon Bell. Look at Antonio Brown. How many guys is Pickens going to bring into this locker room who are going to develop big attitude issues, who are going to, not have the team mentality, who are going to be drama queens all over that locker room? I think that's becoming an issue with Mike Tomlin because, one, as a head coach, you're supposed to hammer that down. You need to instill the proper team spirit, the proper feeling of that locker room. And for a team like the Steelers, which have, again, so many big, storied guys in that locker room, have been there forever, to have these newer guys constantly, every other year it feels like, there's some rookie or second-year player who's, throwing a temper tantrum in that locker room. I think that is a bit of an issue for Mike Tomlin, because why is that happening so many times in the last 5-ish years for this one franchise? So I think it is about time for the Steelers to move on from Tomlin. I just think it's gone a little bit too long.
And he's a good coach. He probably just needs a change of scenery. I mean, he has a decent resume behind him. It's just recently he has no playoff success. His winning record status thing is floating by on mediocre 9-8, 10-7 seasons, where it's okay, yes, you kept the streak going, but is this really anything to write home about? I think, and there's a lot of head coach openings. He could go somewhere else, and maybe the Steelers say, "Hey, good luck. Hope you go somewhere else. Hope you get a new job. Hope we don't have to face you." But hey, we're gonna move on because this is becoming a problem.
It's possible. I mean, I do think it could be like an Andy Reid type thing, where all he needs is just a different team and a little bit of time, and then he could win a couple more Super Bowls with another team. He might not even need that much time. I mean, there's some teams out there that have all the weapons. Coaches just don't know what the heck to do with them.
LA.
Yeah, exactly. LA has had all the weapons. They have the running backs. They have the players. They have the defense. They have players that they can utilize and work around in the scheme. I mean, obviously the Chargers aren't a perfect team. You still need some help with that team. But I really think that from that perspective, I really think that he could like take the Chargers and make them like the hottest team in LA. You know, because everyone talks about the Rams. Imagine having the Chargers win a couple Super Bowls. It's going to change the whole LA landscape.
We talked about in a previous episode, can Mike Tomlin develop a quarterback? He's never had to do that. Big Ben wasn't really developed by him. And it kind of seems like he can't. Justin Herbert's already developed pretty much. We know what Justin Herbert is. Justin Herbert's a good quarterback. He can maybe improve upon him, but he won't have to develop him from scratch. But definitely a lot of interesting stuff to come out of Pittsburgh. I feel like we've been talking about them like every week, but that's kind of what's been in the news. Now, Stan, we get to... I'm so glad that we're not knocking my team. I'm so proud of us. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah, I really think the Bengals just suck. Like they're just terrible, and like
we're doing so much better than I thought we were going to be doing. Stan, your team, the New York Jets. I've seen calls for Saleh to be fired, but that's not what we're talking about. I know you've called for Saleh to be fired too.
Not exactly. There's a bit of nuance to that, but go on.
Okay. Well, maybe this will go into that. So Zach Wilson. According to his mom in an Instagram story, he really wanted to play for you guys. He was trying his hardest to go out there and stay out there, and he was concussed, I think, and got pulled from the game. So, first of all, where do you land on Zach Wilson now? Because it changes weekly based on how he plays, because he is a roller coaster of a human. Where does this put Zach Wilson on your chart?
Well, for one, he is definitely the most consistently inconsistent quarterback I have ever seen. I cannot think of anyone, at least off the top of my head, who has gone from having what looks like the best game of his career to the worst within 1 week, right? It's insane how quickly it changes for Zach Wilson. In regards to the concussion, I think he should have sat out. I think it's really unsafe and dangerous. I do understand where he's coming from. I mean, for Zach Wilson right now, he's not even really playing for the Jets that much. He's playing for his next contract. He's playing for some other team to give him a chance somewhere. So for him, I don't blame him. I think, yeah, you're going to want to play your best and stay out there as much as you can. Zach Wilson has also been a little bit kind of injury prone. He's had quite a few injuries with us, so it could also be a thing of he wants to show maybe a little more resilience. But I definitely think he should have sat out. In regards to what I think about Zach Wilson, I would not even be mad if we kept him, quite frankly, because I think as a backup quarterback, he's very similar to Sam Darnold, except Sam Darnold is definitely way more consistent as a player. But, you know, he's one of those guys who he's a premium, in my opinion, as a backup. As a starter, though, it doesn't pan out. I think for the Jets right now, it's a relationship that has not worked, and for that reason, I think it's best for both of us to move on. There's this publication from Utah called Deseret News, and like apparently those journalists are very close with Zach Wilson. They knew the Jets were getting him. They knew which college he was going to. They know his family members, and they were reporting a lot on Zach Wilson the last 2 weeks about him being almost definitely traded in this offseason, that he's going to be pulling for the trades himself. So if that's true, I mean, I really hope the best for him. Even for Darnold, I mean, like, look at Darnold right now. I know he's not starting, right? But I think he has a good life. I think he has a good role on a good team. He has a chance of winning a Super Bowl this year. I want that for Zach Wilson. I want him to have that type of role somewhere else.
Zach Wilson might get traded. That could be interesting, depending on where he goes. I wonder if any teams would take a chance on him as a starter. But, so, okay. Zach Wilson wasn't supposed to be the starter this year for the New York Jets.
No.
Aaron Rodgers was. And 3 minutes into his Jets playing career, obviously he gets injured. And he's saying all year, I'm going to come back this season. It's going to happen. I got it. And then Jets get eliminated from the playoffs. The same week he gets medically cleared to play. And now the Jets are saying, no, you're not playing. You're not going to play. Now people are saying that Aaron Rodgers planned on this. This was the plan all along. He knew he wasn't going to be able to be healthy before the Jets could be eliminated from the playoffs. He was hoping the Jets would be eliminated from the playoffs. And then he could say, hey, look, we're eliminated from the playoffs. No reason to push it. I'm not going to play. And it was all just BS. And Aaron Rodgers just needed to be the center of attention. I don't know how much I really think. I think people like to hate Aaron Rodgers more than it's actually worth. But what do you think about this whole like saga kind of coming to an end? And he is on the active roster now. They moved Aaron Rodgers to the active roster so he could practice with them. But what do you think about this kind of anticlimactic ending to this saga that we've seen all season?
I definitely wish he would have played. I wish we were still in playoff contention, but we're not. And for that reason, I'm happy he's not playing. On the Pat McAfee show, which I think is the where you got your info from as well, he did say if the Jets were in playoff contention, it would be a different story. And I agree with that. If you're in playoff contention, why not stay out there and fight? You probably only have 2-3 seasons left in your career at all, so might as well try to make a playoff run. For Aaron Rodgers, at this point in time, 100%, I want him to sit out. I want him to get a little bit healthier so that way next year he can be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more prepared for what hopefully can be a Super Bowl push. And one thing is, there's only so many years that you have, one of the top defensive units in the NFL, right? Like the Jets this year, last year, have had one of the best units. And like our biggest hole is we even fixed this offseason. I've been whining about our linebackers since you've known me, and right now we have, I'd say, like two of the best linebackers in the league, right? With C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. I think at the half point of the season, Quincy Williams was even voted by like some journalist group to be the best defensive player of the first half of the season. So you have things looking really good for the Jets right now. You have a few different rooms you have to improve this offseason, and you can make a playoff run. Why take the risk of letting Rodgers get injured again? Especially at Rodgers' age, if you re-injure, your leg, that could be off. You could be out a lot longer now. And the second part to that equation is the type of surgery they did on him was one that hasn't really been done before. That was the entire point for him to come back because it was a newer, more technically advanced type of surgery. A part of that also means we don't know how it works. We haven't seen that many people recover from it. In fact, no one's ever recovered from this type of surgery in this fast period of time. So yes, I'd much rather see Rodgers sit on the bench, stay healthy, do what he can to work in practice and get his movement back. Without taking the risk of getting injured in a meaningless game. If it was a meaningful game and we had playoff chances, different story. But right now we don't have that, and that's the story to me.
So, just to lay it out there, do you think he was lying about coming back?
No, because if you look at the playoff videos that have come out, like he looks fine. Even like 4 or 5 weeks after, I remember he was warming up with the team before one of the games, right? He was walking. I think in half the time it usually takes people to walk after that surgery. So either A, he was on an insane amount of methamphetamines and able to walk around due to the pain relief, or the surgery did work. I just think it's why take the risk with all these injuries. And for anyone who thinks he's lying, sure, I guess, but what difference does it make?
What difference does it make? Chus, do you have any thoughts on Aaron Rodgers?
Honestly, I kind of agree with Stan, more or less. I mean, I don't know. It is a very interesting thing. I don't think Aaron Rodgers was lying, though, because, I mean, I feel like this is a very advanced tech type surgery that they did on this Achilles, and obviously he was seen, walking around and throwing the ball and different things like that. So obviously it's not like he's like on crutches or, even worse, like in a wheelchair or something where he can't walk. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers was lying. I think he probably was planning on playing by the end of the season. I don't know how well it would have went down, but we'll never know now. So, but I guess now he'll have the entire 8 months or so to recover from the Achilles, and he didn't even need to do the super fast surgery. So, which is kind of unfortunate because the Jets do have a good enough team to make playoffs and, do a wild card run. But the quarterback situation is just tough over in New York. I'm sorry, Stan.
I miss Mike White.
Mike White, and he's just sitting away in Miami right now. But
I really, truly, and I know this sounds stupid, I don't think Aaron Rodgers playing would have made a difference because the O-line is awful. And I say that as someone who is rooting for the center, Joe Tippmann. I want him to do well. the O-line is awful in New York, and Aaron cannot move, especially with his injury. He's not going to be able to run. He's older. He's not going to get away like Lamar or Josh Allen or even Joe Burrow. I don't think he would have made a huge difference. I think you could put anyone back there and you'll get a similar result. Obviously, Aaron's a better passer than Zach, but how much time will he have? So, what?
I disagree, specifically because Aaron Rodgers' skill has always been avoiding turnovers and making the quick passes. Even like look at him with Demontae Adams, right? Adams was, he still is a great route runner. He's a guy who can be schemed to get open, but a lot of the passes to Tay were very simple slant routes, just right off, reading what the cornerback's positioning is, trying to read the defense and making those quick passes. So I think it would have made a difference. I think he probably would have won every other game we have, because we have the Commanders this week is going to be a crazy game because we have the 32nd ranked offense and they have the 32nd ranked defense. So we'll see how that turns out. But then the other games are the Browns, who very much injured themselves. And then we finally finish the season off with the Patriots, who are having their worst year in our lifetimes. So I think it would have made a big difference. I think he probably would have won all three of the remaining games. With Zach Wilson as quarterback, I think we'll probably win the first and last, not the middle one.
I don't know. You guys have a lot of injuries on that O-line, and I mean, the Browns, you got Myles Garrett is playing with half a shoulder, but he's still a beast, even with half a shoulder. So we'll never know. So there's no point in arguing about it, but I don't know. I think you guys need to invest in some O-line depth.
I don't know.
Chus doesn't know. Chus
No, I was just kind of like mimicking what you were saying. You're like, I don't know. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in like a bad way either. I'm just kind of like,
we'll never know this season.
I mean, does anybody have like a multiversal like classes or something where we can see what it would have been like if Aaron Rodgers would have played this season? Because that would be pretty epic. Because it's almost like always wondering what if.
I'm just. Are you trying to promo What If right now?
Oh, I forgot. Oh my gosh. Oh, I didn't even realize that they had the season 2 coming out. No, I was not pitching Marvel's What If season 2. We are not endorsed by Marvel or What If season 2. I actually didn't even watch the first season of What If.
I watched the first episode and decided it was dumb. But real quick before we get into the NFL schedule here, what was I don't even know. Oh,
I got it. Can I intro this one?
Yeah.
Okay, 2 NFL teams, the Cowboys and the Eagles, both consistently have made the playoffs. But are these teams frauds after recent losses? Josh, why don't you start us off?
So, Eagles, they suck now. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks. In prime time, Jalen Hurts had a chance to win the game, and people keep saying he's the MVP, but when given the chance to win the game, guess what he does? He throws an interception. And Jalen Hurts is not a bad quarterback by any means. He's great. He's just not an MVP. The Cowboys, Dak, I've been trying to hype you up as MVP. And what do? You go out and do nothing. You get destroyed by the Bills. What is going on? And I guess everyone on the team was sick, according to reports. But you were out there. I would have hoped you could put up at least a touchdown. But they looked awful. The Cowboys looked awful. The Eagles got in a close game with the Seahawks that they should not have been in a close game with them. Their defense is falling apart. They have so many injuries. Do we see either of these teams being NFC champions?
I don't think so. I still am riding a lot on San Francisco. I feel like that team is just unbelievably elite. Like there's just, I know a lot of people like think Brock Purdy should be MVP, but I when you watch like Brock Purdy's tapes, a lot of them are just those like short check down type passes and stuff like that. I'm not saying Brock Purdy's a bad quarterback, but when it comes to that argument, I don't think he's like a super like MVP caliber like stud like a Mahomes or a Lamar or et cetera, like in the past couple of years. Like Patrick Mahomes obviously isn't in the running for it or whatever, but I really think that I don't know. I don't think that I don't think the Eagles and the Cowboys are like showing that they're on that same level with San Francisco. I think Brock Purdy is able to finish these games regardless of how big, how far or short their passes are or what kind of scheme they're playing, because no matter what happens, they're still winning games. You can throw short passes the entire game, and if you're winning, you're winning. Who cares? So I think San Francisco is probably that NFC champion. I mean, the thing I will give the benefit of the doubt is that Jalen Hurts also was sick. I was going to say ill, so kind of like made sick.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so Jalen Hurts was also sick. He was, they just said illness. I don't exactly know what it was. I think you said that the Cowboys team was sick with the stomach flu.
The Cowboys had a stomach flu going around the locker room, and they said Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore had it, but they also said that most of the team had it at some point in the week as well.
So and it was raining, and when you're sick and it's raining and all of that, it does tend to be hard to play. Like when you're sick, like just from like a physical, like from your guys' like experiences, have you ever wanted to be out in the rain after being sick?
No.
Exactly. I
avoid the rain.
Yeah, exactly. So like you don't want to be like, but obviously like your team needs you in this situation. It's different from like working a 9-to-5 job, because it's like, oh, I'll just get to that later. Well, if you miss the game on Sunday, you won't be able to play and make up that game later. So I think it's I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I definitely would put them on fraud watch, especially the Eagles. The Eagles have not looked good the last couple of weeks. The Cowboys, I can argue differently because obviously they did blow out the Eagles, but I feel like the Eagles are on this downward spiral, and I don't really know where it's coming from. So I'm a little concerned with Philadelphia. Dallas, I'm not as worried about right now. We'll see this week.
Okay, Chus is keeping the Eagles on fraud watch. Cowboys are a maybe. Stan, what do you got?
Well, here's my thing with the Eagles, right? Before 3 weeks ago, they only lost to one team the entire season, that being the ever awesome New York Jets. So when you're looking at their season, yeah, they got blown out by the 49ers, and they had two really tough games after. Those tough games were against the Cowboys and the Seahawks, neither of which are bad teams. I'd argue the Seahawks this year or the Lions of last year, where everyone thinks they're a bad team and they're really not. So I don't think they're on fraud watch. For me, what it comes down to is this: their next 3 games, 2 against the Giants, 1 against the Cardinals. Those are going to be 3 really easy games, and they're going to roll into the playoffs with a lot of confidence, a lot of pizzazz. And I think that's going to make the difference, because they're not going to come into these last couple of games after facing all these tough opponents. They're going to come into the playoffs after facing what should be 3 super easy games. So to me, that's the kicker there. Now, I will say, for the Eagles, the games against the Giants, those are divisional games. It's going to always, be a little weird, a little hard to tell. But the Giants have not looked good, even with Tommy DeVito. Right? They haven't looked like a great team. I think the Eagles are going to be able to finish the season with 3 wins and have a really easy stretch into the playoffs. The Cowboys, I can't say that about, though, because their next game's against the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Commanders. Commanders, divisional opponent. Lions and Dolphins, 2 of the best teams in the NFL right now. Dolphins, the second best in the AFC right now, or they're up there. My point is, the Cowboys are going to enter the playoffs in a very different feeling. Right, that locker room's going to be a lot more battered. They're going to be a lot more tired, and they're going to have to face 3 tough opponents in these last 3 weeks. So they're looking to the playoffs. It's going to be a lot harder to see them make that run all the way to the NFC Championship. So I think the Cowboys, after these couple of losses here and there, these last few weeks, I think they're going to want to. If they don't win the next 3 games, I think that momentum is going to really change things for them. The Eagles, I think, on the other hand, they were kind of thrown off by the 49ers. They didn't expect to lose the way they lost, and that's going to, having an easier schedule is going to help them a lot. In regards to playoffs, both teams are decent playoff teams, right? Both teams have a lot of veterans, have a lot of guys who've been in the playoffs before, and I think the Eagles, clearly after that Super Bowl run from last year, clearly have a lot more of those veterans, right? This might even be Kelsey's last year, right? One of the big guys on that team. They have a good O-line. Their O-line struggled recently, but they still have a good O-line. So for them, we know that in my opinion, the Eagles are the better team. They've just lost it. The Cowboys were always a worse team than the Eagles as far as I'm concerned, and it's going to be a lot harder for them to improve enough to make an NFC Championship run.
Okay, so I'm gonna personally, this is me. I'm gonna take the Eagles and put them on fraud watch because they lost to Drew Lock, which yes, the Seattle Seahawks are not a bad team, but their defense couldn't stop Drew Lock. So there's that. And then the offense has been struggling lately, it seems. They don't run the ball as much as they were before. Cowboys, I think, yes, they're playing the Dolphins, but the Dolphins haven't beaten a team with a winning record. And that trend, I don't really see a reason to continue to see that discontinue, especially with Tyreek Hill injured, which, yes, they put up 30 points on the Jets defense. They put up 30 points on the Jets defense, but I don't know. I think the Cowboys are going to come in and they're going to say, "Hey, look, no, we are better than what we showed. We were all sick last week. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to win this game." I'm going to take the Cowboys off fraud watch. If they lose to the Dolphins, though, they'll probably be back on there next week. Eagles are on fraud watch, though, with all their injuries. Let's get into the NFL schedule tonight on Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Al Michaels and Curb Herbstreit will be guiding us through a Derek Carr-led Saints team and a Matthew Stafford-led LA Rams team. So who do we pick tonight? Who do we have? Chus.
I think I'm gonna have to go with. Oh man. Probably LA. I'm gonna go with LA just because I think the Saints aren't bad, but I definitely think the Rams are better. So I think that the Rams have more weapons. I think Kyron Williams is back. I think all of these players are going to make a big difference in that LA's offensive scheme. Earlier in the season, they had a lot of injuries, different problems and whatnot, but now starting to come around a little bit. But I don't think the Saints are gonna pull this one out. It wouldn't be out of the question because they could, but I don't think. I'm gonna go with LA.
Stan.
I'm going with LA as well. I mean, they also won 4 out of their last 5 games, and the loss came to the Ravens, who are the best in the AFC. So they're clearly doing well as a team right now. But also, look at the teams the Rams have faced. They've had a much tougher schedule than the Saints, and they're both, I believe, 7-7 teams. Right? They both have the same record, but one team has gone against so many tougher teams. So when I look at this game, I think it's going to be a much easier path to victory for the Rams. The Saints clearly do have the skills, the guys who could bring a victory out here. I just think that path is not so clear for them.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the Rams. Matthew Stafford has been looking good coming off injury these last few weeks. We've also got Cooper Kupp back, Kyron Williams, as Chus mentioned. Puka has been looking great as a rookie. He looks like he could be a huge steal from this last draft. So I am also going to go LA Rams. Next up, Chus and mine's showdown on 4:30 p.m. on Saturday. Bengals versus the Steelers. Chus, who do you have?
So I'm gonna go with the Steelers because Rudolph is coming to town for Christmas.
Okay.
That's all I got.
That's all he's got. Stan, who do you got? You're the objective, unbiased. Oh, okay, he is biased. What the hell is that? No.
Yeah.
I hope you're about to pull Pat McAfee.
I'm going with the terrible towel this week.
Yeah. Oh. Let's go.
What is your reasoning?
Oh, well, I just think the Steelers are the better team going into this week. Yeah, they've had 2 really bad losses, but they've dealt with a lot of issues in that locker room, and I think Mason Rudolph is at the very least, he's a competent quarterback, right? So I think going into a home crowd against the Bengals in a divisional matchup, I think the Steelers have it. I think the Bengals have been playing better than the team they are. I think the Steelers have been playing worse than the team they are.
Stan. Okay, okay. I'm like
Josh,
shocked.
you have to go with the Steelers now.
No, I'm going with the Bengals. Y'all are gonna be wrong. We got Jake Browning out there. He's playing for a starting spot in the NFL. Yeah, DJ Reader's out. That's gonna hurt our run game, but the Steelers suck in the run game. So not too worried there. Your passing game is gonna suck too. We got DJ Turner out there, who, yeah, he got lit up by Justin Jefferson, but George Pickens isn't Justin Jefferson. George Pickens is a drama queen. And Deontay Johnson, he's not going to be a problem. They're probably going to fumble again, and he's just going to be like, where's the ball? I'm lost. I'm a confused little boy. Jake Browning is going to have another 300-yard game on the Steelers.
Well, you keep yapping.
This is another revenge game for Jake Browning because he lost to the Steelers in his first start, and he's gonna say, "Hey, no, I can beat this team too. I'm Jake Browning."
This ain't no revenge game, bro.
This is a revenge game. Bengals, disrespectful.
So angry. What's the next game?
I'm so disappointed in Stan.
No.
Bills Chargers.
I'm going with the Bills. The Bills are hot. They're coming off a huge win over Dallas. They've been winning. All of a sudden, everyone counted Buffalo out. Now, all of a sudden, they're on a potential wild card weekend spot, or even theoretically could still win the division, but kind of not as close as getting a wild card spot. So I think Buffalo got this. I think Buffalo's going to win. I think the Chargers are just struggling on all sides of the ball right now. I think they have a little bit of strokes of light, but I just don't see the Chargers picking up a win over Buffalo this week.
Stan the Steelers fan.
Bills, no question. It's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward game for the Bills.
I'm also going to go Bills here. Chargers, no head coach. Justin Herbert's had some struggles. Actually, Justin Herbert's out, so he's really struggling. I think Easton Stick is still in as their starter, so yeah, Bills easily. The 32 ranked defense in the NFL versus the 32 ranked offense in the NFL. On Christmas Eve, Commanders versus Jets. Chus.
Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath, but I think the Jets are going to win. I think it's going to be a miracle. I think Washington's been struggling a little bit recently. I have not been putting in Sam Howell in fantasy, and not that I needed to anymore because that league I've been eliminated. He's been doing okay, but definitely not as what I was hoping him to be for these last couple of weeks. I think the Jets are up and down, but I think that I don't know. I think it's going to be a narrow win. I do think they're going to win.
Stan?
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's two big things I'll look at. One, as you mentioned, worst offense versus worst defense, but also the Commanders have at best a mediocre offense, and we have one of the best defenses in the league. So I don't think Sam Howell is going to be able to score too much on us, and if he does, it's going to be like one touchdown and maybe 2 field goals. I think the Jets can be able to score more than that and win the game. I also think, the big issue with the Jets right now is their O-line. And which two players the Commanders got rid of this season? Their two best pass rushers, okay? It's not it's not a very good not a very easy path to victory for the Commanders now that they don't have the one thing that could help them exploit the Jets' biggest weakness. So I think for the Jets, it's going to be a much easier game than, I think any of the next 3 games. And it's going to be what might be our last victory of the season. Hopefully not, because I really want to beat that Bill Belichick Patriots team.
So you're taking Jets?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm also going to take the Jets. I think the only touchdown of the game might be a defensive touchdown, though. So
7-6 spinal.
Yeah.
Hey, it gets it done, though.
Sam has not been playing well. We hyped him up at the beginning of the season, but I believe, I have to check this, but I think after they took Jacoby Brissett and put him in this last game, at halfway through the fourth quarter, or whenever they put him in, He ended up having more yards and more touchdowns than Sam Howell had, and he played less time in the game. So, Ron Rivera has said Sam Howell is starting this week, but definitely a struggle for him and this Commanders offense.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening because I think he's a good quarterback.
He doesn't use
But-
Terry.
Huh?
He doesn't use Terry McLaurin.
No, he doesn't, and I don't understand why. He's not a bad quarterback. I just think that he's just struggling right now because he's shown those like strokes of light where like he's like, oh my gosh, this guy threw for like 380 yards and 3 touchdowns. This guy is good. But then like recently, it might just be Washington. Honestly, it might just be because the team isn't that awesome. But I guess I don't know.
I'd say the quarterbacks most similar to Howell in the league is Wilson, as in they're both good as backups, but they're just not at starter level. And Howell's also pretty inconsistent, just like Wilson there. I think Wilson definitely has a lot quicker of a switch from being good to bad and vice versa. But they're both not very good starting level quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Sam Howell might not be the franchise guy then. Next game, NFC North matchup. Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. We were having some questions about Jared Goff there. He was worrying us for a bit, and then he kind of went off last week. Minnesota, they're still running with Nick Mullins coming off a loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Who do we think wins this game, Chus?
I wanted to say Vikings, but I'm going to go with the Lions. Like, I can't not root against them, especially all that they've done for my fantasy team. And on top of that, the Lions, I do think are a really good team. And I think the Vikings have been struggling a little bit just because of the quarterback situation. But I think it's going to be all Lions, baby, even if they're in Minnesota.
Stan.
Yeah, I mean it's a straightforward of a game as I think for the Lions at this point in the season. Yeah, the Vikings can be surprising at times, but again, as you said, they're rolling with Nick Mullins, and they just lost to the Bengals. I just said I think the Bengals are not the team people think they are right now. Without Joe Burrow, they're just not a great football team at all. They're a pretty poor team. They're terrible, is what I'm saying. They're a really bad team, Josh. They suck.
Goes on a winning streak, gets called terrible. I'm just okay. Anyway, I'm going Lions here. I think Jared Goff is going to get out of his slump just in time for the playoffs, which is very important. I would like to see them improve their red zone offense a little bit. That seems to be where they struggle. So I thought they'd maybe use Donovan Peoples-Jones more in the red zone, and Joseph Dion thought that as well when we had him on, but they haven't really used Donovan Peoples-Jones, which I was kind of surprised about. But still going to go Lions. Would like to see them improve that red zone offense. Next game, Browns, Texans. This would have been a revenge game for Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson is out. Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback. I believe C.J. Stroud will also be out, which means they're going to run with Case Keenum, who got a victory last week in overtime for the Texans. Fun fact, Joe Flacco has as many touchdowns this season as a Brown as Deshaun Watson has this season as a Brown. And if Joe Flacco can get to 14 touchdowns, he will have as many touchdowns this season as a Brown as Deshaun Watson has as a Brown in his career. So,
how many more does he need? 14 more?
He needs 7 more.
7 more. I thought it was.
I'm kind of rooting for Joe Flacco because I really want to see the Browns have to justify going back to Deshaun Watson. I want the Browns to lose, but I want Joe Flacco to do really well. So, causing some chaos up there by Lake Erie. So, who do you got this week, Stan or Chus, whichever one of you?
I'm going with the Browns. I'm rooting for the Browns just because of the big Joe Flacco era. I think we're in the Joe Flacco era in Cleveland, and the Browns are just gonna have to accept that.
Joe Flacco also has more 300-yard passing games as a Brown than the Steelers have since Ben Roethlisberger left.
I don't have to finish the show. I can always just leave.
You guys came after the Bengals.
The Bengals are going to lose. They're done for.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco at this rate, he might even match Brady's age when he ends up retiring because he's playing well into a pretty old age for a quarterback. I think he's 38, if I remember. And I'm looking at their schedule right now. I'm looking at the games they've won, the games they've lost, and quite frankly, the Browns are the better team. I was hoping we disagree on more of these to make it a little more interesting, but I think it's a pretty clear Browns game for me.
I feel like at this point in the season, it's just pretty much cut and dry,
I think you got to go Browns here as well, which is very impressive because they've have a ton of injuries. I think like a quarter of their cap space is currently on IR. Myles Garrett is fighting through an injury as well. So, yeah, Browns over the Texans. I mean, maybe the Texans can win. I think it'll be a close game, but I think you have to lean towards Myles Garrett having a game against Case Keenum more than the Texans defense getting to Joe Flacco. Next game. This is going to be a quick one. Packers at Panthers. Panthers coming off a win, but who cares? Chus.
Packers.
Okay. Look at that. We all agreed. Seahawks at Titans. Chus.
I'm going to go with, I know the Titans didn't look too bad with Will Levis, but I think it's going to be Seahawks. I don't know if Drew Lock or Geno Smith is supposed to start yet. I think it's going to be Geno Smith looking like it's going to be trending that way. I think Seattle's really going to be pushing for that, wild card spot. So I really think that they're going to be, guns ablazing. And not that Tennessee, I don't know how far out Tennessee is of a wild card spot, but I just don't know if they're just on that same level right now. I feel like Seattle's just a much better team than they've been playing like a much better team than Tennessee has.
3 teams in the AFC South are currently tied, and the Titans are not one of them. So they're pretty far out.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be Seattle.
Stan?
And look at the teams, like to go off what Chus said, look at the teams that both these teams have played. Look at their divisions. Look at the toughness that they're surrounded by, and you see a very different story. For me, the Seahawks are just surprising everyone every week. Even last week with Drew Lock, they surprised everyone, right? So I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. I think they're just a really deep team, and I think this is a season that really shows the depth of Pete Carroll's intelligence as a head coach.
Okay. So Reek Woolen he played a little bit in special teams, but he was pretty much a healthy scratch on defense. And Pete Carroll said that they needed to change some things up a little bit. And I don't know if that was a punishment or what. If he'll be playing this week as a starter, that changes things. But if he doesn't play again, then can Will Levis and D-Hop get something going? I think they can. I really like Will Levis. I think he reminds me a lot of Josh Allen when I watch him. That being said, they don't really have a ton of weapons in Tennessee, so I'm going to go with Seahawks, but I think it'll be closer than a lot of people expect. Next game, Colts-Falcons. Falcons coming off a loss to the Panthers. Arthur Smith is on the hot seat. Colts are looking to make a AFC South Division Championship run and a playoff run as well. Who do you got, Chus?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think the Colts have just picked up a big win over us, and they're looking pretty good, and I'm kind of rooting for Gardner Minshew a little bit just to make that nice playoff run for Indianapolis. So I'm a big Minshew guy still and forever and always, and Indianapolis did not take any prisoners against us last week. So I think they're going to roll with that momentum, and they're gonna take down Atlanta.
Stan?
Yeah, I mean, talk about Minshew. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a free agent, and he's definitely trying to get one of those 3-year contracts, 2-year contracts for a backup quarterback, which is really hard to get. So I think he's going to be playing his heart out against the Falcons, who don't really have the best defense or offense or coaching staff, or players just overall or culture. They're not a great franchise, especially at this point in time. The Colts take this.
Yeah, I think the Colts also take it. And I think the defense is probably the better part of that team just because the offense has a ton of talent that doesn't get used for some reason. I mean, you got Drake London, Bijan, Kyle Pitts. None of them Cordell Patterson was used more last week than Bijan was. Like, what the heck is that?
Bijan, the Dijon mustard can.
They used Bijan to block for Cordell Patterson. What? Okay.
Cordell Patterson, stud. I actually, fun fact about Cordell Patterson, real quick. I had him in Madden the one year. I had him do so well that he actually won MVP.
Okay.
Yeah, because he had like 1,200 yards rushing and 22 touchdowns. And it was because I would just plug him in on the 8-yard line. Anyway, continue.
Next game, Jaguars Buccaneers. Trevor Lawrence is still in concussion protocol. If he cannot go, Tucker Beathard's brother, country singer Tucker Beathard's brother, CJ Beathard, will be the quarterback. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield looked pretty good last week. Who do we think comes out on top here?
I'm going with the Buccaneers. Easy Bake Oven is going to get it done, especially if Trevor Lawrence isn't going to play. I think that's even more of an easier ride for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But even if Trevor Lawrence plays, I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to lose.
Stan?
You know, it's the Jaguars have so many ways of scoring. They have so many ways of beating you in offense. But even if Lawrence comes back, what type of Lawrence are we going to see? You know, are we going to see him? Is he going to actually be back and be healthy, or is he going to be kind of like playing a little scared, a little timid? I think that's a difference maker. And quite frankly, you know, everything I've seen from Lawrence, I think if he does come back, he's going to be pushing it. He's going to be, you know, pushing that ball down the field, and he has the tools on offense to make that happen. So to me, that's what it comes down to. I am going to predict that Lawrence is going to play, and for that reason, I'm going to go with the Jaguars.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. Both teams are fighting for a playoff spot and a division championship spot. And Jaguars just haven't felt right these last few weeks. And they've lost to, according to Stan, the awful, terrible Cincinnati Bengals in overtime.
Super bad.
So I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. I think Baker Mayfield has a chip on his shoulder. They've got some weapons down there still in Tampa. Mike Evans has been looking great. Rashad White has been looking good. I think the Buccaneers pull this out to get a playoff spot. Next game is one we talked about earlier, Cowboys Dolphins. Chus.
I'm going with the Dolphins. I think it's going to be a huge, big win for the Dolphins. It's going to be a narrow one, but I think the Dolphins are going to finally prove all of their doubters wrong against the Dallas Cowboys. Just because I think the Cowboys, yes, they lost to Buffalo. They're coming off of that loss. I do think that it had a lot to do with the rain, not feeling good and all that stuff. But I think Miami really wants to prove to the world that they are legit. Everybody talks about the fact that Miami hasn't beaten that many winning record teams this season. And I think this win is going to be a very big game for them to put on their resume going forth to finish out their season. So I think it's going to be a Miami win. I don't think it's going to be a clean, like just clear out like 27-10 win. I think it's going to be a struggle. And I definitely think it's probably going to be the game of the week.
Fins up for Chus. Stan, who do you got?
Yeah, when you have two really strong offenses, I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. I agree with Chus saying I think this will be the game of the week. And with that, I do think the Dolphins are the better team, and I think a big part of that goes to their coaching and their ability to always manage to confuse the other team's defense. So it's going to be a lot for the Cowboys to keep track of. I think the Dolphins are going to take a win here.
I'm going to go with the Cowboys, especially if Tyreek Hill is still questionable. We'll see what happens. He was a game-time decision last week. But I think that pass rush is going to be able to make Tua a little nervous, worry him a little bit. Micah Parsons is a stud. I think the Cowboys have some great corners. Deron Bland has that pick-6 record, so maybe he'll get another one. We'll see. But I'm going to go Cowboys here. Dolphins have not beaten a winning team this season so far. Let's see if that changes. Next game, Cardinals at Bears. We've got Kyler Murray's Cardinals versus Justin Fields' Bears. And there's a lot of thoughts that maybe Justin Fields is playing to get traded as well. He's going to go somewhere else. Chus, who do you have?
I'm going to go with the Bears just because the Bears all of a sudden have looked a little bit better all of a sudden. I would say don't sleep on them Bears. So I think the Bears are going to pick this one up at home.
Stan?
Yeah, the Bears I think are the better team, and this last month, the month of November and entering early December, I think has been the best period of time I've watched. The Justin Fields era of the Bears play, and I think that's going to keep on going, especially against another really weak team. Though this is one game where it really could go either way. It's really hard to tell because the Cardinals have surprised a lot of teams as well. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I'm going to go with the Bears though.
I'm also going to go with the Bears. I'm sorry, Joe Camo. Cardinal rule, but got to go Bears. Justin Fields has been looking good. DJ Moore has been looking good. They've been getting that run game started. Montez Sweat was probably one of the best pickups at the trade deadline that the Bears were able to get. We'll see, though. Next game. This is some Sunday night football action here. It's going to be riveting. I don't know why this wasn't flexed. Patriots at Broncos.
It's because the Broncos are good right now.
Yeah, but they're... Okay, I assume you're taking the Broncos then?
Let's ride.
Okay. Stan?
Yeah, I mean the Broncos are looking great. Russell Wilson has just the second half of the season, Russell Wilson has looked like what everyone has said he was supposed to look like the entire time he was with the Broncos. He's looking good. He's looking like the old Russ. I think it's going to be a very easy win for the Broncos here, especially because the Patriots don't really have too much to write home about.
Yeah, Patriots. Bailey Zappi looks really good in the first half, and then he forgets that the second half exists. He's done that in both games he started in. So I'm gonna go.
Where's the zap effect? Why haven't you added it?
I forgot. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
Bailey Zappi. Anyway, I'm gonna go Broncos. I don't think they're as good as what they've been playing, but I think the Patriots are bad. So, Broncos. Country, let's try. AFC West Christmas matchup. Primetime game. Raiders at Chiefs. Who do you got, Chus?
Oh, it's a Christmas miracle. The Las Vegas Raiders. They're going to win.
Okay, Stan?
I think they're going to beat No, I was just going to say I think they're going to beat the Chiefs. I don't think there's really any logistics behind it. I just think it's going to be a sloppy game. It's going to be Christmas Day. For some reason, I think the Raiders are going to pick up a huge win to keep themselves relevant.
Okay. Stan?
I really want the Raiders to win. That would be my favorite outcome of this weekend possible if the Raiders win on Christmas. But I just think the Chiefs are the better team at the end of the day, and they're going to come into this game with a lot of anger, right? A bit of an axe to grind, and I think that axe is going to be grinded on a divisional rival in the Raiders.
Okay. I'm going to go Raiders as well. I think this is not a game we all expected to agree on, but Kadarius Toney, not been good.
I'm going with the Chiefs.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right.
He wants the Raiders to win.
I really wanted you to go with the Raiders in my heart of hearts. I was trying to trick you. But I think the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be trying to get the refs to get him some calls. They're mad at him right now. Not going to happen, buddy. Travis Kelce's been dropping passes. He's been too distracted by Taylor Swift. And he's going to be thinking about that Christmas dinner with T. Swift meeting Papa Kelce and Donna Kelce. And he might be a little bit worried. Kadarius Toney might line up off sides again. There's so much stuff that could go wrong for this Chiefs team. I got to go Raiders. AOC and the boys are going to get it done. Next game, NFC East matchup, another game we kind of already talked about. Giants, Eagles. Tommy DeVito is coming into Philadelphia, where it was rumored that there was going to be a fan meeting at the Philadelphia Eagles stadium because they're just so upset with this awful franchise that is the Philadelphia Eagles. So,
I wonder what this fan meeting is going to do. But if you're going to ask who I think is going to win, I definitely still think it's going to. I think it's going to still be the Eagles.
Okay.
I don't think the Giants are that good. I mean, I think they're gonna, even if they win like by a small margin, they're gonna win one way or another. I don't think the Eagles are a bad team. I think they're just a little, they're struggling a little bit. But
Okay.
yeah, if the fans want to have their meeting, that's very interesting. It's very Philly oriented. I'm not surprised that they're doing that. Go ahead, Stan.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy DeVito's getting a little mad at his organization, too. I mean, he was saying that he hates the Italian stuff. He just wants it all to end. He wants to play football, and I don't blame him for that.
I
You
didn't
didn't see this?
hear about this. No.
So the Giants asked Tommy DeVito to do some other, like, Instagram influencer video with some Italian guy, and I think he cursed them out, and he was like, I do not want to do this, something like that. He was upset. I don't know if he cursed. I know he was mad though. I can't remember if he cursed. But he just wants to play football, and good for him. Good for him, because I don't know if you've seen any of the influencer things they're doing with him. They're all terrible. He looks so uncomfortable the entire time. So I'm happy he just wants to play football. For the Eagles though, they're the better team. I think it's going to be a double Kelsey victory on Christmas Day.
Yeah, I'm tempted to say the Giants just for the sake of it, but I've got to go Eagles. Tommy Cutlets, once again, he's going to be worried about his Christmas dinner, going home to mom after the game, getting some, I don't know what they eat. I assume they have some turkey maybe, but they probably got some Italian food too.
It's called gabagool.
Got some gabagool going for Christmas maybe? Some spaghetti, some lasagna, yeah. But I'm going Eagles. I didn't know about that stuff with him getting mad at the team though. That's interesting. Interesting. Final game, and this is an actual primetime game that's worth watching. Could be a Super Bowl preview. Monday Night Football. Ravens versus the 49ers. Chus.
I don't know. The 49ers. Either one of these teams could win. And I mean this because they are the top two teams in their respective conferences. I'm just going with the 49ers because I still think they're the most complete team. I think the Ravens are a very complete team, but I think the 49ers are just more complete. I think the Ravens still have a couple pieces that they need to work on. Obviously, without J.K. Dobbins, they're running with like just, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and stuff, which is like okay running backs. You're still missing that like key running back piece, whereas the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey. So like, I think the 49ers just have a lot more of like complete positions, whereas like I think there's some positions that the Ravens can work on. Now, I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. I don't think we're going to see no 49ers Eagles type nonsense. I almost said something else, but yeah, I think that it's going to be the 49ers.
Stan.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an extremely close game. These extremely close games always come down to some small factors. And one of those factors is going to be the fact that the Ravens are going to, they're traveling cross country on Christmas Day, and they're going to be in San Francisco for the game, right? San Francisco dealing with those fans in that environment at nighttime on Christmas, right? Or I guess it's going to be 4 p.m. there. But for them, it's a much tougher transition, especially on Christmas. And I think that's going to help the 49ers out a lot. I think for these like holiday games, there is a big difference for a team that's going to be able to go, they're a little bit more relaxed, able to go straight home to their family afterwards versus the team that goes to the hotel after the game.
Okay. I am going to go with the 49ers as well. I refuse to pick the Ravens this year after what they did to Joe Burrow. I want literally any other team to win at any given time over the Ravens, especially after what the fans chanted. But also, Brock Purdy is averaging 9.9 yards per attempt, which would be, if the league ended today, he would be the third highest mark in a season in NFL history, and he's only behind Otto Graham, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Norm Van Brocklin, who is also in the Hall of Fame. And that would be the highest mark since 1954. So Brock Purdy, MVP conversation is the whole thing, but he has been playing great. He averages a first down per pass attempt, which is wild. I've got to go with the 49ers. They got Debo. They got Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in the NFL. Easy money. Even if I don't like the Ravens, got to go with the 49ers no matter what. So that's all I've got for today's show. Chus just turned his camera off, so I assume he's back. Yay.
Yeah, we're going on an hour and a half here. I feel like I have some stuff I got to finish up here. So
Yeah,
that's
we're about to end right now. Just do either of you have anything to add?
No, I think I'm good here.
No, Chus is good. Stan is good. So thank you for listening to today's show. If you enjoyed, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We can be found anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube at No Butts Show. Our social media pages are NoButts_show on Instagram and No Butts Show on TikTok. My Twitter is Josh_Butts_2001. That's where you can enter to win the hat. And if you would like to reach us, you can email us at bullmoospodcast2. That's the number 2 at gmail.com. Finally, our spread shop will be in the description, so check out the merch. Once again, if you enjoyed today's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, go do something nice for someone.